Good evening, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. My name's Anne-Marie DeMarais, and I'll kind of help facilitate the evening here. But before we begin, I invite us all just to a moment of prayer and thanksgiving for the opportunity to be here in support of our kids and Catholic education. Let us remember that we are in the holy presence of God. Good and gracious God, be with us this evening as we gather to learn, question, and explore the ways that you are calling each of us to become the best versions of the people you have created us to be. Bless our families, our benefactors, and all who work at Cotter schools. Assist us in our mission of challenging every single student in our care to reach his or her full potential, academically, physically, socially, and spiritually. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. St. Joseph, patron of Cotter schools, pray for us. Live Jesus in our hearts forever. Again, thanks for being here. We gather with the intent to assure you, parents and students, that you're not alone as you explore the opportunities for preparation for college in the days, months, and years ahead. We want to assure you that we will be there for you in whatever way we can, helping you along the way, helping direct you to resources and people who can be with you. Tonight we'll start that journey and refer you to many resources, and hopefully you'll be able to answer some questions as well. As we begin, I want to welcome Sister Judy Schaefer, our president, to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'd like to start with those of you who have a parent-student here. Students, thank your mom or dad for coming. They're at the end of a long day, and they're taking time to come out. Or grandpas, whoever is here for you. Thank you, good. And we want to thank the parents that are here without their students, because that shows you really do want to do what's best for them. As some of you were coming, I realized it's time for me to retire now. I'm now officially old because Anna Morgan is coming to college counseling classes, and I've known her since she was 2. So, time to quit. No, it's a wonderful opportunity. You have some really, really exciting years ahead of you. There's a lot of choices, and hopefully tonight will help make those a little better. I would just say to you kind of one word. One, think about what you love and follow it. Follow what you love, but do it strategically. There's lots of choices to make along the road. Don't dismiss any too quickly. Look at all of the options. There's lots of great help out there for both helping you pick what you want to do as well as funding it. They're really, don't limit yourself thinking, oh, I already know that's too expensive or it's too far away, but think about what you love first and then follow it. So thank you for coming. We have lots to share with you tonight, and I have the least, so thanks very much.
So what we will do tonight, our goals for the evening, to really talk a little bit about what can you be doing now in the next couple of years while you're here at Cotter in high school to prepare you for college. Knowing that we, again, are in partnership with you. What courses will you be selecting? How do you start to explore careers? We'll talk about that. Secondly, a little bit about how do you do this college search piece? Where do you start without being completely overwhelmed? And then thirdly, how might you as a family consider funding the opportunity that we indeed call college? So, as we get started, I want to make sure that you all are aware of the parent portal on the website. How many of you have accessed the parent portal?
That's really good. website first. Up here, the My Cotter. Click on the My Cotter. That will take you to the portal. Where you log in and
Hopefully, everything you as a parent can be found, that you as a parent will want, can be found here. If there's any piece of information that you think would be helpful for you as a parent and it's not here, let us know. You can log into RenWeb, your own student's account in terms of academics, right there. And also the course catalogs, any of the calendars that you might be interested in are also loaded all here. We work hard to try and have all of the most recent Cotter Connections, the e-newsletter that you should be all getting every Friday. Those are chronicled here. Check out what our students are doing in terms of the school newspaper, constantly being updated as news items are posted there. And then every Monday also, we have a bit of a mission message, a bit of a scriptural reflection that assists us in calling us back to who we are and why we do what we do. Parent Portal, log on for the most recent information that you need. If you are an app user, know that there are RenWeb apps for you as well. I'm not going to talk you through how to do an app right now, but if you are a user, know that it's out there for you. I have one on my phone, and at one touch, I can be checking on Kaylee's updates or whatever I need in terms of grades, homework, communication, directory, right there. So know that that is a possibility for you as parents to check out the App Store for RenWeb Home. And at this time, invite Mrs. Fitch to come forward and talk through a little more about grad requirements.
Okay, first of all, thanks again for coming out tonight. Everyone's schedule is quite busy. We know some of you have been here last night and will be here again later this week, so thanks for coming out. And I want to also state that if a question comes up tonight or at some point after this evening, please at any point feel free to reach out to us with questions you have specific to your own learning path, because that's really our job here, is to have you as the student be most prepared for what you want to do after you leave Cotter, whatever that is. So please make sure if you're thinking of a question and it comes up later, you let us know. First, I'll start with this handout you received. This is just a reference guide of what is required for a student to graduate from Cotter. Now, students should all be on this track. The requirement, as it says there, is 24 credits, and you must take 6 credits a year, so assuming you're actually passing your classes and earning the credit, which we know you're all doing, that is the part that you will be on track to graduate. What this is supposed to help you do is kind of figure out both where classes are offered and then identify the flexibility you have in your schedule as well to get in the rest of your requirements. For many of the requirements that are listed in there, for example, 3 years of math, many students will want to take 4, 3 are required, you can take them. Sometimes students may adjust the year that they take them, for example. Same with world language, fine arts. Only a year is required. Many students are going to have 4 years of a fine arts credit, right, or more. They might end up doing 2 of those classes. So this is to help you figure out what is the path you want to take to make sure you get all of your credits earned that you need to graduate, and sort of how to map it out best for you. On the bottom, you'll notice kind of in bold, it also states the requirement of the service hours that you need to complete every year to graduate, and a successful completion of a capstone project. And the capstone project is done the 2nd semester for seniors. It's a collaboration between the English, Social Studies, and Religion department. The student chooses their project, their topic, they work with the teachers. There's time given in each of those classes, but then the student has a one-on-one advisor that also works with them to produce that project, and they present at the end of the 4th quarter of their senior year. So that is another piece of the requirement, again, kind of built right into the senior year schedule. So this is a guideline. Check it out, make sure you're referencing it at some point. As you're meeting each year with the academic counselors as well, this is kind of, we help you keep on track, right? But this is just an idea for you to know where you're going. As far as we said, our goal is to really prepare you for what you're going to do once you leave Cotter. right? So there's a big picture idea in terms of, preparing students with the skills and content they need and with the mindset to be able to say, this is what I want to do and I'm going to be a positive, contributing member of my community. The very first thing up there that's going to help you achieve that goal, whatever it is to show up to school every day and put in your best effort. For many years I taught seniors, and when the students graduated the next year, we'd invite some of them back in, and we always said, okay, now you're in college, what's the one tip you tell the seniors heading in right before they head out for next year? And they said, go to class, right? Like, just go to class every day, but don't skip your classes, any of these kind of tips. That's the same in high school, right? So the best thing we can say is you're exposed to a rigorous curriculum every day here. The teachers are working really hard to expose you to the skills and the things you need to do, and so we want to make sure that you invest every day coming in here, right? Show up, do your homework, ask the questions, get the feedback, all of that kind of stuff. So that's the best thing that can set you up. The second one is we do offer leveled classes, and I put a lot of these in here are directed with the assumption that students are going to go on to college, because 98% of our students go to 2 or 4 year schools. So it's not necessarily for everyone, but these are trying to set you up as students for that option. So we have leveled courses in all of our core subjects. And if that's something you're interested in, that extra challenge, that is going to serve you really well, right? It's going to help you be better prepared for that next step of education. So some students choose to take it in multiple classes, and some just say, hey, there's one area. I happen to be really interested in science, so I'm going to take the advanced class in science, but I wouldn't do it in math, or I wouldn't do it in social studies. So think about that as well. Another thing that will help prepare you is we are going to work with you, and we currently are, to give you an individualized plan. So again, you're a part of a big, a school system here, but our goal is to figure out what are you interested in, and what do you want to do when you leave here, and what's the best things we can set you up with both class-wise and experience-wise to have you be ready to take that next step. So working on an individual plan for you. That might, again, be the classes, or it might be, why don't you get involved in this extracurricular, or it might be trying to hook you up with a business in town that you might say, hey, learn what they do there. Maybe that's what you want to study. Another piece is individual and group academic counseling, and what we mean by that is group inflexes, that students are given some exposure to ways to make plans for their experiences after high school. And we're really working through that with MCIS, which I'll talk about in a minute. But then also Mr. Stevenson, Ms. Ayers, also meets with each individual student and helps to do that planning to set up the student for what they want to take next year. So those are all pieces of that academic counseling. We have students, everyone in school is going to take the standardized test. And even though we don't always like those tests, the reality is students tend to perform better the more times they take them, right? That you actually get better as you learn how to take the test. And so we think it's important to have students knowing it's a piece of getting into college. We have a day in October that everyone is going to do their testing each year that happens right in the school day, so we can kind of help prepare students and learn what are the strategies for taking the test so that you can do as well as you can on that test and both get into the school you want as well as earn scholarship dollars associated to that. And then finally, we think a big and very central part of what we're doing here at Cotter that makes us unique is that we want our students to be grounded in the Catholic tradition, to know our expectations of being ethical and moral leaders in the communities once they leave here. So that's the challenge, and those are kinds of the things we hope we're doing well here to set you up for the next step as students and as parents to help your students be ready for that. One piece that I want to go back to just was when we talked about leveled courses. There is a real benefit for students taking advanced coursework in high school. And again, it's not for every student, but it's a real thing to think about as you're making your planning to say, could I take one before I graduate? Or what's the area that I'm most interested in? Because it provides a number of benefits for you as the student. So the first one that I think everyone goes to is it saves you money, and that is true. On the back sheet here, the handout, there's a bunch of different types of categories of these advanced classes, which I'll explain in a minute. But one of the things they have in common is that depending on the school you go to for college, you have an opportunity to be either given credit for a class you took in high school, and if you do that, that's going to save you the tuition dollars. And so that's sort of the biggest thing people think about, and it gets them ahead, and it is, it is a big deal. The thing to think about is it's very specific to the school. So once you have an idea of where you're going, then that kind of conversation can be more specific to you. A second thing, and this is a really important point why I'm recommending you think about taking at least one class, is that what they've found in recent studies of college graduates is the students who tend to drop out were not exposed to rigorous curriculum. And so the jump from high school to college is so significant that students feel overwhelmed in college and they end up thinking they can't complete it. And so there's been some research to suggest that if students have exposure to a more advanced curriculum, even in one class, that it's likely to have them do it in a safe environment here. They have a lot more support, and if they can get through that, then they're able to sort of persevere through those challenges in college. So that's a second thing to think about, is that exposure might be helpful, and you might want to do it here when you have a lot of support. Clearly, we know that it helps in admissions to colleges, so the more advanced curriculum you take, the better chance you have, particularly if you're interested in a more elite university. The other part is for students, even if you just take 1 or 2 classes, it could put you ahead of your peers coming in. So if there's all freshmen entering college, but you have had some credits in your back pocket from high school, that can give you, for example, preferential treatment in course registration or housing or those sorts of things. So they kind of help you along the way and continue to build up. Obviously, schools have general ed requirements, so getting some of those out of the way early in high school help you when you get to college, so you can get into your major or the discipline you want to take quicker, and you have a chance to sort of finish earlier. And then the other thing is, even if you don't finish earlier, it might open up your schedule, so you can be a double major, or a major and a minor, or you can study abroad and still fit in your major, or you can get an internship and do that. So those are all options of reasons to think about maybe taking an advanced coursework. Again, if you refer to this, think about maybe one time you want to fit one in your high school career, if that would work out. Okay, to the back side of the page, I'm not going to read this whole sheet to you. This is for you to take with you and examine. In our course catalog, and when the students register, which, that was due last week. No, if you haven't, complete your registration form. But on there, it lists the differences between AP classes, or PAC classes, or Project Lead the Way. This kind of gives you a breakdown of that and which courses fall where. I can give you if you have any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to go with it, or go over it with you at some point. Some of them, the differences, for example, AP, it relies on the test at the end of the year. So it's a one-shot, one-day test, and your score, may or may not get you credit. It certainly looks good on applications to schools either way. PAC is through St. Mary's University, so you pay for the credits up front. They're $75 a credit. You leave the class, it's taught by a Cotter teacher, you leave the class with a St. Mary's transcript, and the grade, whatever you got here, transfers to St. Mary's, gives you the same grade. So depending on the school you're going to go to, that might be guaranteed credits versus AP, which may or may not. So some of them you kind of have to think about where you are. That's why we want to personalize it to the student and say, what's your interest? I'm talking a lot about the pieces that are for really advanced, and I do want to encourage you to think about that, but I also think it's important you know that our job is to support you in all areas of your student learning process. And for some of us, we're going to be really strong in one area and we're going to struggle in another. And we want to say that we also have that academic support to help you at all those stages and in the areas you need it. So we have the Learning Center, and students can be assigned to the Learning Center for an hour a day if they just want to have a consistent academic support, right? If they say, I want to check in with some every day, I want to have some help with my homework, I want to make sure that I'm getting sort of testing strategies down or practicing, some of those study skills, that kind of stuff. And you don't have to go into the Learning Center. You don't have to be assigned there to go in. Some students just check in once in a while, or they go in after school. We also have, Mr. Stevenson's going to get up here in a minute, but he is the head of our academic and career counseling, and obviously a great first resource for everyone to say, hey, what are some of the things that I'm going to need here to help me along in this individual path? And then finally, MCIS, I'm just going to touch on here. And we put this in the area of support because The purpose of it is to really kind of build for each student a place to house their own individual learning plan. So we're using Minnesota Career Information Systems. Every student has their own account on here. We started with it last spring, and so we're kind of just in this process of nearly a year into it. The goal of it is it's a place for us, as I said, to kind of house your whole experience, but it provides a lot of opportunities for students to personalize their learning experience. So what I mean by that is there is a bunch of interest surveys on here. There's ways for students to find out careers that they may be interested in, schools they may want to attend. There's things to look at, scholarship dollars on here. There's things to review what kind of jobs are out there that may fit the things I've said I'm interested in. So we have a process that we go through here trying to have students complete some of these tasks while they're in school at different points in the year through each of their 4 years here. But it's also available to them at any time. So students can get on this at home and check it out if they want. And through this process, we're hoping to, again, connect them with potential careers they're interested in or potential schools they may want to go to, and help also house all the things they're in. So build a resume on here, keep track of your service hours, identify awards you've given, you've been earned along the way, and those kind of things. And so this, through our MCIS system, hopefully your students have talked about it, but they will at least meet twice a year as large groups, like a flex group, to go through some practice on here. And then they will also, in an individual meeting, review kind of what results came from the surveys they've done on here, and what does that tell them, and what are they interested in, and things like that. And so throughout the course of their 4 years at school, they'll have an idea of maybe more specific, career planning based on this. All right, I'm going to invite Mr. Stevenson up here now to talk a little bit more about college counseling resources.
Okay, I have 2 parts tonight. The first is to talk a little bit about the college testing, or standardized testing here at Cotter, our program for that. And then I'm going to try and show you some places on our website that you can look for specific information on college searches and financial aid searches and that sort of thing. So quickly, our standardized testing program here at Cotter in the high school, every October, the 9th grade will take the PSAT 9. The 10th grade will take the PSAT, and the 11th grade will take the PSAT. For them, it is also the NMSQT, which is the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. If you make a high enough score on it, you're eligible to get certain scholarships from the National Merit Foundation, from various companies, that sort of thing. So that's the standardized testing that we as a school administer. The idea being that those 3 exposures to the PSAT in its varieties will help students as they move towards the ACT or SAT, which are the standardized tests that most colleges still want you to submit a score for when you apply for college. We are also, as sort of an extra thing we're looking at next year, we are formulating exactly how we're going to do this, but we're looking at providing for our students ACT prep course, so that hopefully, since these tests, as Ms. Fitch mentioned, people tend to do better on them the more they take them, or at least the second, third, fourth time they take them, instead of just that first time. So we are trying to come up with a way. We're going to formulate a plan to do ACT prep courses for our students so that they will be exposed to the types of questions and the strategies that are helpful in making better scores on those tests, because those tests can get you admitted to different places, can get you money at the places you're admitted at. You know, we're talking a point difference can make thousands of dollars of difference, so we figure it's probably worth the time to try and help people maximize their scores and their knowledge. So, I'm going to show you the other aspect, if I can get my cursor. Okay. So we are back under the academic counseling page. My picture. We're all glad I'm not past that. Over here on the left, you can see the college planning resources. And I just want to show you a couple that. There we go. Right. So a couple of places that I will just take you to the title page of, if you will. First off, I want to repeat the fact that we're using MCIS with students starting in 9th grade. I just got finished last week meeting with the last flex group. So every student in the school has an account and has met at least once to do an activity on MCIS. MCIS has a lot of these tools also, and allows all of it to be saved in one place. But if that is not enough, or if you want a different opinion, different college search, I would show you, for instance, this is the one I show a lot of students. We used it maybe a little bit more before MCIS. It says College Board College Search. Let's hope it goes there. It didn't this morning. So this is the College Board. The College Board is a pretty good place that students in 10th grade, actually even 9th grade, should probably go ahead and set up an account. And that's because the PSAT 9 and the PSAT and the SAT and the AP are all administered by the College Board. So if you have an account with them, you have all your information in one place, right? You can access your scores, register, etc. The thing I wanted to show you here, the big future page, this is one college search, right here under, appropriately enough, find colleges. And as you can see, it asks you to create an account. Most of these will. Obviously, if you've already established an account for one of those tests, it's the same account. And all you really do is you enter as specific information as you want on the left-hand side from the drop-down menus, and it gives you a list of colleges that match what you put in. There's this one on the same website. On the same college planning resources page, there's Peterson's college search. There are many, many college searches. If you know you want to go to college in Minnesota or Wisconsin, there are specific searches on here for just those colleges, all under this page. Let me show it to you one more time. This is under the academics. There are also, I think Morney's going to talk about the financial aid piece, FAFSA information, and various scholarship searches there. So I'll turn it over to him since we're only moving into the financing portion.
Good evening. We're thankful you're here. Just one thing before I start talking about finances. We did talk a little bit about our Learning Center. And in our Learning Center, we do cover, we have tutors available at various times. We work with students with Cotter accommodation plans. We also work with students that maybe have an ILP, IEP type thing, where they might be going back and forth to either Winona Middle School or Winona High School for a class. And the reason I'm talking about that is colleges do have learning centers as well. And if there's documentation on this end, it's easy for them to get involved in that learning center on the college end. So just remember that as you work with us. Financially, which is always a big question for parents, the U.S. News came out with a report here not too long ago that talked about 5 ways to give money, okay? And I'm just going to walk through that and not reinvent the wheel. First one they talked about was starting a 529 plan, which is basically a college savings plan. And typically, it's nice if you could start that when your kids are really young, so it can grow and you can continue to put in. But you still can do that for your students at this age as well. There are some tax advantages, although with the new tax laws and everything, I'm not quite sure how that all relates now. But anytime you can save for college for a longer time, it's always a benefit. So if you've got kids coming up, that's a good thought. One of the places here in Minnesota it's called the Minnesota College Savings Plan, mnsaves.org. If you want to check that out at some point, it will give you some good pointers. Secondly, they talked about filling out a FAFSA. We talked a little bit about that. You'll notice up here it's the free application for federal student aid. And it's very important that you fill that out for a number of different reasons. This enables students to receive federal aid such as student loans and Pell Grants, which is what you want to be looking for as you're applying for colleges. And institutions, the colleges themselves often use the information from the FAFSA to determine their own need-based scholarships. So once you fill that out, it gives your kids an advantage. It takes a little bit of time. It's a little bit different than back when I had kids going through high school. You had to wait till January of their senior year and then get your tax stuff and work through it. They're doing that much earlier now, so it's a nice benefit. So please make sure that you fill your FAFSA out and get that information. From that, you can exhaust all the federal loan options, such as the Stafford loan. And nice thing about federal loans is that they do give you some flexible payment schedules, so that's kind of nice. And a lot of times their interest rates are fairly low, although you may find some private loans a little bit lower, so that is totally up to you. But filling out the FAFSA allows you to look at those types of federal loans and have access to them. Fourth thing would be to negotiate with your college. So once you fill out your FAFSA, they send you a packet of how much you're going to pay, and some of that will be need-based aid, which is how much you can pay according to your income, and some of it is merit-based pay. So that's merit-based aid, which is your students' ACT, grade point average, and those types of things. So it doesn't hurt to negotiate and talk to the financial aid officers and just say, if we could get $1,000 less, it might be easier for us. And just having some different conversations. For some colleges that works. For some colleges they're pretty cut and dry. But we have had students and parents that have been able to negotiate a little bit better deal with colleges. So don't be afraid to ask the financial aid officers. And then finally, I'm going to talk about some scholarships, and I'm going to have Sister come up and talk about the HEF scholarship. If I can maneuver this, I'm going to take you to a spot here on our site. So it also just has the scholarship point here. It's a great spot. And there's different types of scholarships that we kind of deal with. College-specific scholarships. I'm going to go to that page here. And again, I talked about merit-based, and need-based, and so we have a number of colleges here if you would like to go to one of these and just look at some of the examples. So I'm going to go to St. Ben St. John's merit-based scholarship here. And they'll lay it out very nicely for you. It gives the criteria for their honor scholarship, top 20% applicants, GPA, ACT, and they break it down even farther if you go down. So again, there's different types of scholarships that colleges offer, and so make sure you're checking those out. That's why we do think that grades in ACT and SAT are important, because it does help you get money for college at certain points. The other scholarships that you need to look at are national, and those are available all over. And it's a little bit digging on your end to look at, but also local. And we've got a base of some local scholarships that we offer here at Cotter. Some of them are business related, so look into your own businesses if they offer scholarships for students, definitely check into those. Some of them are memorial scholarships, so it's just a little bit of digging. Kiwanis, Elks, those types of orders also offer scholarships. So we do have many of them in our community. I would really encourage you to check out our website first and look around and talk with people in our community for more. And if you see more, we're going to keep adding them to our site. So this is what we currently have here. And so as you look, it is really beneficial. It takes time. It takes time to fill out applications. If you've done for students that do college essay, oftentimes you can reuse that college essay in a scholarship. They'll ask for essays. So it's a little bit of work on your end, but well worth it. One of the great things about Cotter is that we do have the HEF scholarship, which is available for all graduating seniors. And we have Sister Judy come up and talk about that.
I just asked Dave if I could talk about it, because I just found out the story behind HEF scholarship this last month. HEF is the Hiawatha Education Foundation, and we have about $5 million in endowment. We have given over the course of 20-some years over $10 million to Cotter grads. The scholarships vary from $500 to $2,000 a year, and they're for all 4 years. And all you have to do is keep in touch with us and keep a certain grade point. I think it's a C, isn't it? Yeah. But the story I heard was one of the benefactors of the scholarship was riding as a chaperone on a bus for either a band trip or something. And he was sitting next to a sister whose name was Sister Margarita. She taught here at Cotter in, I think, like the 80s, 70s, and 80s. Hatter, there we go. Well, you can thank Sister Margarita. She said to the benefactor, I just wish our students didn't have to work after school so that they could participate in all of these wonderful extracurricular activities that we have. But she said so many of them are working that they can't be in the band or the choir or whatever. And she said, wouldn't that be great if they had a scholarship? And so the benefactor created it. And Sister Margarita just passed away 2 weeks ago at 100. So what a wonderful story to realize that because one person said to another person, I want something better for our students, it happened. And so I really, it's a wonderful, wonderful gift that you all receive, and I'm always so proud to hand it out. So just know that that's something that you have, and that really you just need to keep in touch and make sure that you connect with us as you move or whatever. Some people have also deferred it for like military service or something like that, and then we will do that. Like we've had several people go into the military and they deferred it a year or two, and then they come back and we reinstate it. So again, like Mr. Forney said, the big thing is, quite honestly, colleges want your business. You're in kind of a great market. Negotiate with them. They want you. The college market is not that strong right now in terms of there just are less college students. So negotiate with them. The really good schools will do all they can to get you. And coming from Cotter, quite honestly, a lot of them will say, oh, I've heard of Cotter. We want you. So really play that up and use that.
I always appreciate Sister digging in to find the stories because it adds a personal touch, which I really believe Cotter's about. And so thank you, Sister, for doing that. HEF scholarships for our seniors. We're going to be getting them out for them to work on. And so in the next few weeks, they're going to be finding out what their award is according to the criteria. So again, I would reiterate some of the things that were said earlier. We really want to work with you. We want to help you out in this process, and we believe that Cotter's a great place with great families like you. And so at this point, we're at the question stage. If you have any questions about any of this, I'm going to MC this and hand it off when we need to. But any questions out there? Yes?
So I'd heard from somebody that various states have formed consortiums where, like, maybe Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, if you attend state schools, you get in state school even though you don't live in that state. Is there
Reciprocity. Yeah, Minnesota has reciprocity with Wisconsin and the Dakotas, but not Iowa. And so, where you pay basically the same amount that an in-state student would pay. So that's who we have agreements with at this time. And also, is there anything with the private schools here in Minnesota that you're aware of?
No, I would just recommend that, don't let the sticker price shock you. The private schools give out an incredible amount of aid. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a school here, the representative talking to one of the seniors, and the gentleman said, if you get accepted, you automatically get a $17,000 scholarship. And so, I mean, they're knocking off money right and left, and a lot of the private schools, even though their sticker price is much higher, they end up giving out so much aid that it becomes cheaper than some public schools. So just investigate all your options, both of them, to see where you get the best deal.
I'm just going to say one more thing in regard to students applying for colleges. We typically like students applying to maybe 3 to 5, so that they've done their homework and don't apply to 10 to 15 colleges, because it's very expensive, okay? Some of the colleges will waive the application fee, which is around $50 to $75 a lot of times. So check with that as well. That's a little bit extra savings. Other questions?
So you talked mostly about the ACT, and my daughter came home and talked about taking the SAT instead. So Mr. Stevenson, maybe you can comment on that. I mean, I suppose you have to check out which each college wants, but I kind of thought it was all ACT now.
No. The short version is that every college takes both tests. That's the short version. Truly. There was a time, I grew up in Texas, and the South and the East and the West, we took the SAT, and the Midwest took the ACT. Now, I have not run across a college yet that won't take either one of them. So we take the PSAT primarily as preparation because it leads to the PSAT in MSQT in 11th grade, which is a scholarship opportunity. It's a scholarship competition. We had 4 seniors this year who were National Merit Commended Scholars. The ACT doesn't offer that. As far as preparing for the ACT and SAT, they are similar sorts of tests. I could go into all sorts of detail about differences between them, but you don't have enough time, and it's really not very exciting. But the idea is that practicing standardized tests in general would help them get better at it. But that's the reason we do the PSAT 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. But there's no reason to be concerned about a college not taking the ACT or not taking the SAT. And I advise our students this, starting in 11th grade. In a perfect world, I would take both of them and then see which one you do better on. Because some people do better on one than on the other. I also advise our students, particularly if they're way better in math, to just take the SAT, because the math score is 50% of your total score. And on the ACT, it's only 25% of your total score. You know, that sort of thing. But I can talk about that.
Any others? Okay, again, we are around if you want to ask a few questions. And I'm going to have Mrs. Fitch come up and finish this off here.
Thanks. So this is just some final tips, kind of saying, and if you're in this room or as the parent of a student in the room or if you have other children, the first thing we want to stress is 9th grade counts. Kind of all the stuff beforehand, for better or worse, nobody's really tracking, but your 9th grade year counts, and so that's kind of the big first step of that. Transitioning in the process both academically and socially to make sure you're kind of fitting in and figuring it out, and then getting on the right curricular path. It's also a big part to try something new, and a lot of students, I mean, Cotter, it's one of the great blessings. Kids are in so many things, and they can be in so many things, and they do them well, and so it's fantastic. And I think both the students and obviously the parents help get them there and get them around, and work and all the teachers and staff do the same. But it is really important for students to figure out something they want to be involved in outside of their curricular work as well. So take that into consideration. And 10th grade is much of the same, and exploring community involvement as well. As they get into their junior year, it is really important to think about sustaining involvement. So a lot of schools look at things and it's not just, oh, I tried this one year and then I tried this the next year and then I did this. It's looking at what have you committed to for a long time? What's something you're really interested in or passionate about? And it doesn't necessarily have to be at Cotter, right? It might be something outside of school. But what have you committed to and demonstrated that you're interested in and you love it and you're willing to work on it? And then again, we have colleges that come here, sort of begin to look at those schools, do the work on the MCIS or other sites that we were given here to say, let's take some interest in that and meet with the representatives or go tour a school. And then kind of as your senior year, there's more a really firm process. And again, a lot of that work is also done in school, writing essays, completing it, working on, queuing into the scholarship opportunities, following up on those announcements, and then certainly doing the exploration of the colleges as well. So this is kind of a rough idea of some things to be thinking about as you go through your 4 years here. And again, as Mr. Forney said, we're sticking around, so if you have any questions today or in the future, please let us know. And thank you for coming out tonight. Have a good night.